Let's completely shatter the biggest illusion in modern economics. The idea that a rising economic tide automatically lifts everyone out of poverty, it is a total myth. Today, in this explainer, we're tearing down everything you thought you knew about economic growth. It is dangerously flawed. We see the headlines every single day. GDP is skyrocketing. New factories are opening up left and right. Services are absolutely booming. Common sense tells us the poorest citizens are getting a piece of that pie. Wealth created at the top naturally trickles down to the bottom, right? Well, absolutely wrong. That assumption is a lethal trap. The data reveals a shocking, almost backward truth. The exact same economic growth can trigger a massive wealth boom in one region and trap the poor in an inescapable hell in another. It is not automatic, and it is certainly not fair. We aren't just throwing around theories here. We're looking at 35 years of hard, undeniable proof. From 1960 to 1994, researchers meticulously tracked poverty and real consumption across 15 major states in India. They tracked the massive booms, they tracked the devastating busts. This timeline exposes exactly how the most vulnerable get completely left behind. 298. That is the number of massive household consumption surveys backing this entire analysis. This is a bulletproof investigation into the raw mechanics of poverty. We're skipping the academic fluff today. We are looking straight at the brutal reality of who actually survives an economic boom and who doesn't.
Here is where it gets totally counterintuitive. The data exposes a brutal divide that defies common sense. Agricultural growth? It's fair. It lifts the poor across all states pretty equally. But non-farm growth, like industry and tech, that is an unfair trap. It leaves millions stranded, and your fate is entirely dictated by geographical borders.
The reality on the ground is just staggering. The exact same industrial boom hits two different states. In places like West Bengal and Kerala, it completely rescues masses of people. But in Bihar, that exact same economic boom completely abandons the poor. Same economic growth, entirely different survival rates.
To put that in perspective, the disparity is massive. A new factory opens up in Kerala, and it manages to save over 3 times as many poor people as the exact same factory opening in Bihar. 3 times the poverty reduction, generated from the exact same amount of money. It's wild.
So you gotta ask yourself, why? If the economic engine is absolutely roaring in the industrial sectors, why are millions literally locked out? Why does wealth trickle down beautifully in one state but hit a solid brick wall in another? It all boils down to one simple concept: your initial settings. This dictates your fate long before the economic boom even begins. It's your starting line. If your initial settings are broken, the economic rocket ship will simply fly right over your head. Think of these settings as your literal entry tickets to wealth. High female literacy rates, low infant mortality, fair land distribution, small consumption gaps between cities and rural areas. Without these, without the basic ability to read or having basic health security, the poor are completely invisible to the modern, skill-demanding economy. It forms a brutal 3-step survival guide. Step 1. Secure basic health and education. Step 2. Only then can the poor acquire necessary skills. Step 3. Finally, you convert that economic growth into an actual escape from poverty. Basic health and education aren't just nice social perks. They are mandatory prerequisites for surviving an industrial boom. The historical gap is just devastating. Back in 1960, Kerala empowered their women with a nearly 40% literacy rate. That set them up for massive future success. Meanwhile, Bihar left their population stranded with a devastatingly low rate of under 7%. That is a fundamentally broken starting line. This is the real kicker. The data reveals an incredible correlation. Literacy alone explains nearly 66% of the poverty survival gap between these states. Just the ability to read. If Bihar had simply matched Kerala's literacy rate, their ability to pull people out of poverty using industrial growth would have nearly tripled overnight. For decades, the top experts were literally living in a fantasy world. They assumed all states react identically to growth. They firmly believed the ultimate solution was just to blindly pump up the GDP. But the brutal reality of this data absolutely destroys that model. Each state has a totally unique wealth penetration rate. You cannot just increase GDP. You have to fix human resources first. Now, okay, let's be totally fair for a second. The study does have a theoretical blind spot.
It assumes you can magically isolate and change one condition, like literacy, while freezing everything else. It misses how education dynamically evolves over decades. Relying purely on static 1960 baseline data is, at the end of the day, a simulation. The real world is infinitely messier.
But honestly, the core painful truth is unavoidable. To quote the researchers directly, the geographic pattern of non-farm economic growth has not been pro-poor. The exact regions that desperately needed new industrial wealth actually saw the least growth. The system naturally concentrates wealth far away from the most vulnerable. Which leaves us with one massive, paradigm-shifting question to end on. If your starting line is completely broken, does the finish line even matter? The next time someone on the news brags about raw GDP numbers going up, don't just blindly applaud. Ask yourself, who exactly is equipped to catch